Welcome back, True Seeker. The focus of the world is on Taiwan, who was rocked with reportedly a 7.4 magnitude earthquake, according to the USGS. It says Taiwan's agency is reporting it as a 7.2, but you can see that Western media is reporting it as a 7.4. And of course, Taiwan, right now, the conflict with China. In recent U.S. history, we had the big July 4th earthquake with the epicenter on the military base. It was the China Lake military base where that epicenter was. If you recall, that was back July 4th, 2019, not long before we got rocked by the news of Kobe Bryant's death in Southern California during the 74th NBA season. But what I want to point out is what is so strange about this being reported as a 7.4 quake in light of it being the anniversary of Jesus' crucifixion. Of course, this comes right after Easter, and it comes right before Tomb Sweeping Day, which has a parallel to Easter in Taiwan. This happened the day before Tomb Sweeping Day and 3 days after Easter passed. But I want to talk about it in light of the anniversary of Jesus' crucifixion. If you didn't know that, science about 2012-ish came out and confirmed, supposedly, that Jesus' crucifixion date is April 3rd. So that's the day of this earthquake in Taiwan. And I want to talk about how this 7.4 quake aligns with the leader of Taiwan, as well as the leader of China, Xi Jinping. If you're new here, we talk about 74 a lot in terms of destruction and death and killing. And they're saying at least 9 people are dead and hundreds more are injured from this quake. But if you're new here, gematria, the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words. Notice how in gematria, energy, nuclear, weapon, they all equate to 74. And again, you have Jesse Ventura, the former wrestler, the former governor, the former host of Conspiracy Theory, the TV show, where in one of those episodes, he said back in his Navy SEAL days, he used to plant big bombs along fault lines. And he said sometimes when you're feeling those big earthquakes, they're not natural, they're man-made. So we're going to entertain that thought and just think about this. Is this all just one big coincidence, or is something else going on here? Again, 7.4 is what the USGS says. Notice the leader of Taiwan, from her August 31st birthday to today, April 3rd, the day of the quake, was 7 months and 4 days into her age. The 217 days is also a bit interesting because last year on 21/7, the 21st of July, the movie was released, Oppenheimer, about creating the bomb. But 7 months and 4 days into her age, a 7.4 quake. And then the leader of China, Xi Jinping, from this earthquake to his upcoming birthday, June 15th, is 74 days. Couldn't help but overlook the 2 months and 13 days either, because that reminds me of 213, the LA area code, where they just had the big earthquake not long ago. On the epicenter, it was on China Lake, but it was felt very well in LA, the 213. We just saw the March Madness tournament. We just saw Nate Oates get his 213th win with 2 big upsets in LA, the 213. But yes, these perfect 74s. And then if you're watching the news, they're talking about how this comes right before Tomb Sweeping Day. And because of the destruction to property, there could be some graveyards that are damaged. Tomb Sweeping Day is where people of that part of the world go and visit their dead ancestors. You know, they communicate with the dead, some of them. It's kind of like Jesus coming back from the grave and communicating. But notice how the gematria of Tomb Sweeping Day is 74. That falls on April 4th, one day after the quake in Taiwan on April 3rd, which again is Jesus' crucifixion day. But Tomb Sweeping Day 74, like holiday. Again, we talk about how 74 has to do with death and destruction. Again, here in the U.S., where 74 is the nation's birthday, 3 of the first 5 presidents dead on that day. We're going to come back to some of this other information, But if you're not aware that science says Jesus was crucified April 3rd, again, just look it up. This was some big scientific confirmation a little more than 10 years ago. But we've pointed out how April 3rd in the US it's written 4-3. And in Gematria, Jesus Christ, when you run the alphabetic order forwards, is 43. When you run it in reverse, it's 74. And just like with the alphabetic order, Jesus, cross, Messiah, gospel, parables, Jewish, Masonic, occult, English, Gematria, they're all 74. Special number 74. Again, so many huge rituals with 74. And you can add this one to the list. It's a long, long list of 74 rituals we've been documenting. And again, just with regards to fudging the numbers, if you read the story, Taiwan's agency says it was a 7.2. The USGS, which I've pointed out 1,000 times, the USGS will come in and change the numbers of the magnitude to fit the ritual. We've talked about this so many times. So again, you just got to say, what are the odds that it's the anniversary of Jesus' crucifixion and all these 74s line up and the USGS has come in swinging around saying, oh, it's a 7.4. Now, with regards to the whole Jesus thing, and this coming right after Easter and right before Tomb Sweeping Day, I just want you to see how in the 4 base ciphers, if you're new here, that's what we teach about every day, the 4 base ciphers. A, B, C is 1, 2, 3. Also, running the alphabetic order in reverse, Z is 1 back to A is 26 in both orders with numerology. Notice how Taiwan and Easter are the exact same in all 4 ciphers. April 3rd in a leap year is the 94th day of the year. So Taiwan just got rocked with an earthquake on the 94th day of the year. And again, whose calendar are we on? Whose language are we speaking? Who's the military order that operates in 112 nations? Again, it's the Jesuits. And the leader of the Jesuits, again, the Jesuits are the Roman Catholic Church's military order, just like how Easter's their holiday. But the leader of the Jesuits is Arturo Sosa, November 12th birthday. From his birthday to this earthquake was his 144th day of his age. Jesuit Order 144. Again, another number we always talk about with big, deadly rituals. What are the odds? What are the odds? Was Jesse Ventura lying when he said that they've planted big bombs all over the world along fault lines? Again, they were running these weapons testing programs for, well, I'm sure they're still running them, but just admittedly for the better part of a century. Remember, from Arturo Sosa's birthday, November 12th, to the Pope's birthday on Saturnalia, December 17th, it's a difference of 35 days, like Catholics 35. But that means that this happened on the 109th day of the Pope's age. Look at the overlap with earthquake and military, both 107, 44, 55. The discrepancies with the 109 and 63, where military is 109. This happened on the 109th day of the Pope's age. And remember, April 19th is the day in history that Ignatius of Loyola was recognized as the first superior general by the Roman Catholic Church. April 19th is the 109th day of the year in non-leap years. April 19th, fateful day in history as well. It's the day the Revolutionary War began in history. But yeah, Tomb Sweeping Day falls the day after 4/4, earthquake and military 44. Another fateful day in history from MLK to the World Trade Centers. But yeah, it's just the same patterns over and over. And then here's the other interesting piece. From the July 4th, 2019 earthquake in Southern California, where the epicenter was on a military base, the China Lake military base. From that day to this earthquake in Taiwan, notice it's 247 weeks and 6 days later. Again, the United States of America is 247 years old right now. The Jesuit Adam Weishaupt founded the Bavarian Illuminati May 1st, 1776. So the Illuminati is 247 years old and change right now as well. And again, it goes back to the Jesuits. But if I included the span, it would become exactly a span of 248 weeks. And of course, the Illuminati and the U.S. will both turn 248 this year. And I just wanted you to see that the, again, Tomb Sweeping Day Its official name is the Kunming Festival, which is 248. So again, I think these are signs of what's to come. We know that the beginning of this year, end of last year, at that time period, the media was very focused on what Xi Jinping said about how China, one way or another, will reclaim Taiwan. And again, you have nations in the West saying there's no way that's going to happen. And I remember when I was back in middle school, our history teacher used to always tell us that World War III will start when China invades Taiwan. So there's just all these signs in the world right now that big things are on the horizon. And again, most people just don't. It's sad that most people in the world are just like clueless to everything, and they're unaware of. Here, like even this HARP. Let me pull up old HARP here. Jesse Ventura. He even covered HARP, the military facility that has the power to influence weather and cause earthquakes, as he explains in the old episode of Conspiracy Theory. HARP officially went live in 93. April 3rd is typically the 93rd day of the year. In a leap year, it's the 94th, overlapping with Taiwan, like we talked about. But remember what matters about April 3rd typically being the 93rd day of the year in light of Jesus' crucifixion as well. Again, crucifix in Gematria is 93, like God's son, like Nazareth. Christianity in Sumerian Gematria is 930, 930. The 930th chapter of Protestant Bibles is where the Christian section begins. Earthquakes, that's part of the biblical prophecy. So, for one more point for people who are familiar with the work, notice also from how the China Lake earthquake to April 3rd, 56 months later, if you're new here, 56, not another high calling card of the Jesuits. And just to go back to the China Lake earthquake to remind you about something, back-to-back earthquakes, July 4th and July 5th, 2019. And from July 4th, 2019 to the first case of coronavirus being confirmed outside of China in the world was 201 days later. From the China Lake earthquake to the confirmation date, which was January 21st, 201 days later. And again, event 201 had happened October of 2019, the simulation of the pandemic, the day the military world games began in Wuhan, China. And again, 201. Event 201 was the name of that simulation. The Jesuit order equates to 201. We're in the time of the first Jesuit pope, the first to live in suite 201. Again, the point of understanding this is the point of understanding the number patterns, the redundancy, who's doing this. The only CDCs in the world to participate in Event 201 were the Chinese CDC and the US CDC, getting the two biggest trade partners in the world. If you want to read more about this, I have a few different posts on this. The name of that military base where that happened, NAWS China Lake 121, like how they ended up confirming it on 121, which goes with Revelation, and Revelation goes with 666. And then remember, they declared the pandemic March 11th, 666 days after the Cladex simulation, which was the first simulation by the same group of people who did Event 201, and the Holy Bible equals 201, like Jesuit order. And then 201 was on 1018, like how in Luke 1018, it's where Satan comes to earth. The second earthquake, because it was July 4th and July 5th, the second one was 201 days after the Pope's birthday. Again, the first Jesuit Pope, the first to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican, when his birth name in Gematria, Jorge Mario Bergoglio's 201, just like the Jesuit order, like Catholic Pope, like Ignatius of Loyola, their founder. The second one was also 235 days after the Superior General's birthday, when the Society of Jesus, the formal title is 235. Yeah, there's also something interesting about uranium-235 and big bombs and anyhow, I don't think these events are separate at all. I think this is all part of one ongoing script brought to you by the same people that gave you the calendar and the language. So, yeah, those are the main points I got for right now. And we'll keep this one short and sweet so more people watch it. We're just over the 15-minute mark. Again, thank you to everyone who hits the like and the share. And we'll be back later. There's always more to cover. Till next time, Truth Seeker.